Hey, thanks for joining me here today on Cosmic Peppers. Today I'm going to be looking at two peppers. I'm going to be looking at both the Anaheim and I'm going to be looking at the Poblano. So I'm going to start out with the Anaheim. This pepper, if you look here, oh my goodness, this thing's almost as long as my head. This is a huge pepper. I'm not going to eat this whole thing today, but we are going to try it out. So this pepper originally comes from New Mexico, and it was brought over to California by a guy by the name of, let's see here, Emilio Ortega. You might have heard of him. He's the guy who runs the Ortega factory. He's the guy who started the Ortega company. And I guess one of the big reasons he got it started was bringing these peppers in. He'd roast them up, and to this day, the majority of the Anaheim peppers that are out there on the market still go out and are used in canning. So around starting in 1897, he opened this factory, and that's really from there where the Anaheim pepper sort of took off. If you're in California, these are sometimes known as the California chili. When they're red, they're sometimes referred to as the red California chili. In their green state, they can also be referred to as the Magdalena, or they can be also called, once they ripen, they can be called Chili Colorado. So those are just a few different names that this particular pepper goes by. Some of these peppers from Mexico really, as opposed to say your peppers from Asia or things like that, go by different names sometimes if they're dried, go by different names depending on if they're green or if they're red. So both the peppers I'm going to be eating today are going to be unripened peppers. Once again, the heat and the sweetness and the flavors will definitely intensify as these peppers become more red. But this is what I can pull from the local grocery store right now as I'm covering this basic peppers before the things get kicking out here this summer. So to start out with the Anaheim, I'm going to go ahead and take a bite off of this one just to sort of get both ranges of where the temperature is. I'm going to take one bite from the tip down here, and I'm going to take another bite up here towards the top. That way I can sort of see if the top of the pepper should usually be a little bit more hot as we reach towards that placenta, and I'm going to get both ranges here. So we're going to go ahead and, I want to check on something. Let's see what kind of heat we're getting into here real quick, right? So these Anaheims roll in at anywhere from 500 to 2,500 Scoville heat units. And one of the big things with them is that's a pretty huge range. So I'm going to try the Poblano here in a moment, and it's between 1,000 and 1,500. Generally speaking, the Anaheims that are out of California have a sweeter taste, where those coming out of New Mexico are going to be a little bit spicier. So, and from what I understand, that really has to do with the heat conditions as they're growing. Very sweet. The skin on it is a little thick, so mm. Mm. Turning a little sour there in the end. What I was going to try to say there for a moment is I could see why people with this particular pepper would want to end up roasting it and would want to end up taking off that skin. The pepper had an amazing flavor. The complaints I had is that skin is definitely pretty waxy on it, and it separates from the rest of the pepper as you're chewing it up. So really, all I've got left in my mouth now are these little bits of pepper skin, more or less, floating around. I even got like one stuck to the top of my mouth. Not really what I'm looking for in a pepper when I'm eating it raw. So yeah, but these are made for roasting, so maybe we should give that a shot next time. Yup. The top of the pepper was still good. The skin didn't feel as thick, but at the same time, it definitely didn't have anywhere close to the amount of flavor that it did down on the base. It's, in fact, the top of this pepper was slightly bitter, whereas as opposed to the bottom of it was extremely sweet. So we're going to move over to the Poblano now. Both of these peppers can be used in making chili rellenos. So the Poblano is the typical pepper that is used in making chili rellenos. When this one comes off the vine and then it's dried, it's called a ancho. And ancho in Spanish just simply means wide pepper. This comes from the Puebla state of Mexico. And that's also where the chili relleno comes from. So when we do say that the ancho or the Poblano is The poblano is the primary pepper for the chili relleno. That's one of the things that we sort of have to back that up, as this comes from the same place that the recipe comes from. So I'm not going to take a bite off the very tip of that one. It's got a little bit of an ugly smush look, so we're going to go a little bit north of that. I should say that Anaheim had no heat whatsoever. I wouldn't even put that, like, that was like eating a bell pepper. Nothing at all. Biting into the poblano, I didn't get a tiny, just a very, very small bit of heat when I first bit into it, but after that it went away. I can immediately tell you that this isn't as sweet as the Anaheim. That could just be individual growing conditions, but then again, the poblano is known to have an earthier taste as opposed to these Anaheim's sweeter taste. This definitely has a pretty earthy taste to it. I'll give it that. We're going to go up top now and take another bite and see how that compares. See if I can get that focused on that on them seeds, just so you guys can see how many seeds are in there. That's what I'm trying to do. This pepper right here was the top of it was also more bitter, just like the other one. The top portion was more bitter than the base. It was still pretty good. These I think really have to be cooked to really enjoy them. Otherwise, or they have to be ripe. So a poblano, I'll love to take a red one, and I love to put it on a sandwich raw or something like that. But these green ones, unless I'm making chili rellenos or something, I'm not really a big fan of the green ancho. They do have some good flavor to them, but really, when we look at the market out there, and for those of you who are watching this, you're probably chili enthusiasts, so you know that there are a lot of other better peppers out there on the market. Still, I would say that as a basic pepper, this is always a really good one to throw in for the summer. You can really cook a lot of good stuff with this, and they also do great for pickling. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this chili review. I don't have to wait 5 minutes between these two. There's really no heat coming off of either one of them. I wouldn't even say that I even hit 500 Scovilles with either of these. This is just really completely insignificant. But part of that is I'm sure that they've been bred somewhat to be pushed out to the grocery store markets and things like that. I want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Cosmic Peppers, and I'll be back, and I might even be doing as much as filming 2 or 3 of these today. So thank you much. We'll do it again soon.